What is going on SUI Network right now? This is huge news, guys. A major platform on SUI Network was hacked, and surprisingly not having a huge impact on the coin price, although it is going down a little bit while a lot of the other market is going up. But I'm a little surprised to see this. But honestly, I've been through this with Algorand. I've seen major platforms get hacked, and you come back from it. So it's, we have to put this in context. But well, let's dive into what actually happened here. We're gonna do that on today's Frugal BC. Before we get to that, guys, if you like this kind of content, you like getting the news straightforward on crypto networks like Algorand, Hedera, SUI, Near Protocol, please hit that like and subscribe button. Now, as I always say, guys, you don't have to smash it. You just press it gently, and it works just fine that way too. Also, since this is not an Algorand video, I just want to give a brief shout out to our sponsors, Non-Fungible Domains, for that .algo address that makes doing everything in Algorand so much easier, and Marcus Aurelius, an NFT and meme coin project on the Algorand blockchain with the mission of sharing the wisdom of Stoicism. So check them out in the description below. Channel membership starting at only $1. You can see that in the description as well. But let's get to this news. And this comes from Cetus Protocol. Now, Cetus is one of the major platforms, the leading DEX, in fact, by their own description, in liquidity infrastructure on SUI. So as they say, Cetus is where on-chain trading happens. Hard little word to say there. So they made this announcement on at 10 a.m. today, which is surprising. The news was already going around well before that, so very interesting. As of earlier today, we have confirmed that an attacker has stolen approximately $223 million from Cetus Protocol. We have taken, we'll just correct the grammar there, immediate action to lock our contract, preventing further theft of funds. So they can actually shut this down. So is it a SEX or a DEX? Because if you can shut it down, I don't know. I don't think I'm not sure how decentralized that is if you can just shut it down. Obviously, now that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you want to be able to shut down the protocol to stop further funds from being stolen. But also, is it really decentralized then? Anyway, $162 million of compromised funds have been successfully paused. We are working with the SUI Foundation and ecosystem members right now on next step solutions with the goal of recovering the remaining stolen funds. Majority of impacted funds are paused, and we are paused, and we are actively pursuing paths to recover the remainder. We have no higher priority and will provide further updates as they become available through this channel. A full incident report will be disclosed later. We are sincerely grateful for your patience. This actually isn't the latest. They actually did have earlier ones where they talked about, there was an incident. This is about 5 hours ago from when we're recording. So this must have been very, very early on May 22nd, depending on where they are in the world. I don't really know. And he says there was an incident detected on our protocol, and our smart contract has been paused temporarily for safety. They were investigating. It looks like they just repeated that 3 times. And now SUI Network had actually shared this news as well. And they basically just said the same thing, I think. Cetus worked together with other DeFi protocols, the SUI Foundation, and the SUI validators to collectively protect the ecosystem. A large number of validators identified the addresses with the stolen funds and are ignoring transactions on those addresses until further notice. So guess what, guys? You may have gotten all that SUI, it was coins related to SUI, but you're not going to be able to do much with them because everyone's going to identify those addresses and make sure you can't do anything on them. So I enjoy that. I do have some information on what coins were impacted too. We will get to that in a second. Cetus team is exploring paths to recover those funds and return them to the community. I got AI in the brain lately. An incident report from Cetus is forthcoming, as they said. SUI Foundation and the rest of the ecosystem are committed to supporting Cetus as they work for this incident. Alex, who's actually got into it a little with them on a unrelated Algorand issue, but generally friend of the channel. Good news for the victims, but if validators, 114 only in total, can freeze wallets when they want, that raises a major question about the network's censorship resistance. Yeah, we can talk about decentralization another time, because there is I have brought up that concern. Someone else brought that up too. The fact that you can like obviously it helps in situations like this, but also the whole idea, the whole ethos behind crypto is its decentralization. So obviously that's not very decentralized, but so we do have some more information via the block that talks a little bit more about what coins might have been impacted. And it was front page news for this morning. It no longer is surprisingly, I think I would have kept that pinned to the top because this is pretty significant. But well, let's see what the block had to say. So you already know this. SUI-based token prices plunge amid 223 million Cetus protocol exploit. Now I got to point out, I just want to take a look at SUI here because it did fall a little bit. It definitely, it didn't really nosedive exactly, but it definitely fell while a lot of other coins are in the process of pumping up. So it did have an impact, but not a huge impact. And, I remember when I covered the My Algo hacks on Algorand, I don't remember a huge price impact on that either, surprisingly. You would think, I actually thought it was maybe the beginning of the end for Algorand, because this was an actual wallet that was hacked, a web wallet that no longer exists for, well, probably understandable reasons. The SUI did take a little hit, but not as much as some of their tokens, so let's get back to that. Here they talk about it. Tokens including Lo-Fi, Hippo, and Cetus itself dropped more than 50% on decentralized exchanges. So that's the real impact. It's not necessarily SUI itself, although you can see it is down. It is down a little bit, but their tokens related to it really dropped. Here's a chart with Cetus protocol. Yeah, that dropped like a rock. I'm trying to see if they shared some of these other ones. So analysts on Look on Chain claim more than 260 million was drained from the protocol. That's a little more than Cetus is saying itself. That's what they're claiming, probably through on-chain analysis, I imagine. And with the attacker converting stolen funds into USDC, bridging to Ethereum, exchanging for ETH, estimated around 60 million USDC has been cross-chained so far. Blockchain security firm Peck Shield said over 200 million had been stolen, repeating the $60 million bridged USDC figure. So that's a lot of money. They're bridging it right to US dollar coin, probably anticipating, and that might be a big part of the drop, because that's a lot of money to sell off, although compared to the market cap, it's not really huge, but definitely enough to have an impact, I think. But I don't know if they swapped these right to USDC or they swapped into SUI first. I'm not really sure. Apparently some in the SUI community are claiming that Cetus was not hacked, which is a little bizarre because Cetus themselves said there was an exploit. So it's a little strange, since they specifically have confirmed, and maybe that was early on. But right now they say, yeah, definitely they're claiming 223 million and 162 million of the compromised funds have been successfully paused. Yeah, we covered that. So if you're on SUI Network, obviously this is a bad day for you, and I feel bad for anybody who had funds, especially if they had funds stolen on this platform. And even if you didn't, it's pretty it's pretty disheartening. We had this happen with Tiny Man back in, I think it was 2021. It was 2022. It was pretty early on in Tiny Man's existence. Now, Tiny Man fully recovered, and it's being used by a lot of people, so you can actually overcome this. And the Algorand blockchain itself wasn't really impacted. Some argue maybe it was. Some argue that Tiny Man and the Algorand blockchain itself, because of the Tiny Man hack and the My Algo hack, maybe never fully recovered. It was in the top 20 at one point, and it's been sitting at 51. It does this definitely raises issues of centralization and decentralization, because can you really call yourself a decentralized exchange if you can just pause contracts at any time? That's a question. That's definitely a question that people are going to have. Now, listen, I want to explain that I do own SUI, and I'm a big fan of it. I like some of the stuff they're doing. I think the decentralization aspect could definitely use improving, because I forgot what the number was, but you need like millions of dollars worth of SUI in order to run a validator, and that's not very decentralized. That's why there's only 117 of them. In Algorand, this used to be the case in Algorand, not because there was a huge barrier to entry, but there was essentially no reward for running a node, so it had like a couple hundred itself. Now it's got several thousand because they incentivized it. So I hope over time they're gonna open that up to more people, because that's a pretty big deal. You definitely want your network decentralized. That's the whole point of crypto, right? Permissionlessness and decentralization. Now, I don't blame them if they have the ability to stop the contracts. They absolutely should. That makes sense to me, but it does bring up those questions. But guys, if you're on SUI Network, don't panic too much. You will get past this stuff. Algorand got past this. Other chains have gotten past this, I imagine. Now, don't let up on them though. Make sure Cetus not only gives you a full report, and they should be giving us a full report, but also I want to hear like a major audit going on to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, which is what Tiny Man did. They went through a pretty serious audit process to make sure their platform was secure, and there hasn't been an incident since. Like I said, it was, I want to say 2022, and then 2023 was the My Algo hacks, as I recall. Not a good day for anybody involved, but I think you can get through this. I think SUI Network will be fine. And I really do love some of the innovations they're doing with stuff like ZK login is genius. I mean, these are kind of the problems that I've been talking about in crypto for a long time. So I hope that SUI makes a full recovery. I think it will. Like I said, I don't think this will have a huge impact on it. Not the greatest timing when you got this Bitcoin pump that's probably going to start pulling alts up with it. Definitely not great timing, but you'll get through it. So I hope you enjoyed this news today. I mean, obviously didn't enjoy the the subject matter if you're a SUI fan, but it's good to take a dive into this. And let me know what you think of this hack in the comments down below. Were you impacted by it? Definitely love to hear from you. And what do you think about the decentralization aspect? I'd love to hear from you about that as well. Otherwise, I'm Frugal BC. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the future.